Hello, welcome to the Healthy Alternatives podcast. I am Dr. Christine Sauer with DocChristine.com. Today's show is a recording of my radio show of the same name. Enjoy!
I am ready.
Cole is ready. He'll give me the finger when he is ready to tape. Good afternoon. This is Dr. Christine Sauer, your host of the show Healthy Alternatives, here on 97.5 CIOE FM with live stream on communityradio.ca every Thursday at 12 noon Atlantic Standard Time. Thanks for tuning in today. In this show, I will talk, mostly with guests, about all aspects of health, healthcare and wellness, from conventional to alternative and everything in between. My mission for this radio show is to help change people's lives for the better by informing them about different options to get and stay healthy and well so they can choose for themselves which option might work in their case. And if you feel you are stuck in a dark place, I want to tell you, don't give up. There is a light at the end of the tunnel for you too. Today I'm extremely pleased to be with Michael Stack. He is a media consultant, a comedian, and a self-taught intermittent fasting practitioner, and so much more. Hi, Mike. Nice to have you on the show.
Hello, Doc Christine. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks. Now tell people a little bit, how did you get to be a comedian and a media consultant and then start intermittent fasting?
Sure. So I'll just give you the really quick background. I spent probably the first 14 years of my career as a sponsorship and marketing person for the not-for-profit sector. Mm-hmm. So I worked for a lot of hospital foundations and not-for-profit foundations, and fell into the restaurant industry back in 2012. And so I've been working primarily in that sector ever since. Mm-hmm. As for comedy, it's always something that's been kind of in my blood a little bit. So it was something I used to chase in high school and college. Got away from it for like 20 years, and just on a whim went to an audition that I saw come up last fall, actually about a year ago, and joined a comedy troupe over in Dartmouth called Off Kilter Comedy. Did a fringe show from there. Got into the Neptune Improv Conservatory.
Cool.
So it's like no looking back from there. I guess it's in my blood is the quick answer.
And I went to that fringe show. It was hilarious. I laughed and peed my pants while doing so.
That's music to my ears.
Yes. Oh my God, it was some funny. Yeah, you were really good. And how did you get into intermittent fasting? I assume you were overweight at some point.
I was very obese. I was. I sit at about 5'9", and I was sitting at about 255 pounds. Mm. And there's a saying I'm fond of is that you'll change when the pain outweighs the need to stay the same.
Right.
And I started to hit a lot of pain. Joints were hurting. Couldn't exercise anymore. You know, my ankles, everything was starting to killing me. And basically I was just feeling pretty crappy. And I tried a lot of things over the years. I mean, back about 10 years ago, I was a runner. Now, mind you, that was pretty good for keeping the weight off. Mm-hmm. But I used to follow these old, like food guides and ideas of like eating 6 meals a day because you're working out and blah, blah, blah. And, all that stuff just basically stopped working for me. Mm-hmm. So when I got into February of this new year, I just said, man, I had to do something different. I had to get this weight off. It's not getting off. So I had a doctor that recommended a book called The Obesity Code by Dr. Jason Fung.
Great book.
And that was the book that really just changed my life, I have to tell you.
Great book.
Great book. So I started intermittent fasting back in end of February. And so from the end of February till now, I've lost 60 pounds. I've gone from 255 pounds down to 195 pounds. So
Super.
I'm pretty pleased with that.
Good for you. Now, many comedians have a tendency to have mental illness. You know about, what's his name? You know him. That was a comedian and committed suicide. And I know
Robin Williams, maybe?
Yes. And it's kind of sad. And do you know many comedians that do the same?
I mean, not personally, but there are a lot of them out there. And there is a saying in comedy that you're kind of looking for truths, and that all comedy is rooted in tragedy. So it kind of stands to reason, if you are suffering from depression and anxiety, and your mind is kind of rooted in that tragedy, it's if you're prone to comedy, there's a good chance that's how it's going to come out. Tragedy is at the root of comedy.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, I heard that before, but I never really understood it. So how did you experience intermittent fasting, and how did you get started, and was it hard, or what did you do? The biggest hurdle, I think, is mindset. So that was the first one. And I'd done a lot of stop-start on various weight loss programs and techniques over the last number of years. But when I got to the end of February and I was 255 pounds and I was trying to get out for a walk and get the weight off, and my knees were hurting, my hips were hurting, my ankles were hurting, I just said, this is not good enough, and I really want it. So that was the big first hurdle. So I'm going to do what I need to do to get this weight off. I want it. That is so important. Now, what was the main purpose to get the weight off?
Primarily health. It's when it comes to comedy, one of my favorite things is physical comedy, and it's something I really enjoy. And that's a lot of bouncing around the stage and falling down, and a lot of really slapstick humor. And you really need to be in fairly good shape for that if you want to have any kind of a longevity with it, and you don't want to get beat up.
So you needed to lose the weight to do something you enjoy.
I did, yeah. And I really, it came down to like everyday life too. I got to the point where I was uncomfortable all the time. I was uncomfortable lying in bed. I was uncomfortable sitting in the car. I was uncomfortable being at my desk. So it's just constant discomfort. And you just say to yourself,
for young men like yourself, probably you wanted to look good in the eyes of the female gender too.
There's always that.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not going to lie.
I mean, when you feel uncomfortable in your skin, you're probably not in a shape that you want to enter in a relationship.
It does, and it speaks to a bigger theme, which is just confidence in general.
Yeah,
you're not as confident to jump out on the stage. You're not as confident when you're up doing a sales presentation.
Yeah. So it's more being unhappy with yourself. Now, there's alternatives, and some people that are overweight learn to be loving of their overweight body and still are confident.
Absolutely. And, that speaks to body self-image. And I think that's important, that you have a good, positive body self-image. But for me, it was really like that pain and and that negative image that really kind of drove the train forward. And that's what worked for me.
Yeah, and that's important because you have to have some pain to get you started, but you have to have a long-term goal to get you going, because we all tend to fall off the bandwagon. Now,
absolutely.
Did that happen to you too?
Yeah, at times. And what I've done is I've learned not to sweat it, especially as I've gotten further into this intermittent fasting process. And when you start to see the results, it's just like, you know what? If you've decided to have a treat day, or you've kind of got off the program for, 3-4 days or even a week, and you've gained a few pounds back, don't sweat it. It's only a few pounds. Get back on it next week. As long as you don't rationalize yourself right back up to 255 pounds again.
Yeah, I think that's where, as you said, the mindset comes back in. When you tell yourself, oh my God, I blew it. I'll never make it. And I can as well quit everything and start eating like a crazy person again. Then you gain it all back.
Yeah, fail forward.
Yeah. Failure is success.
Failure is success. There's a saying in sales that I'm fond of, and I got it from an insurance salesman. And the way their numbers would go, so statistically, to get one sale, he would have to make 10 calls. He would get rejected on 8 calls. He'd get a meeting with 2 calls, and he'd close a sale on 1 call.
Yeah.
And what he used to do was look in the mirror at himself and say, I am one no closer to yes.
Yeah, that's good. I actually read a book. It is really good about sales. It's called Rejection Proof.
Okay.
It's a fun book to read because it talks about a person that was so afraid of rejection that he decided to do something about it, and he went from house to house asking a completely unreasonable request, like, would you allow me to put a advertising poster in front of your house the red would be so big that you can't see the house anymore.
Okay.
So he expected rejection. He said, my goal is to get rejected. And he was surprised because he only got rejected 9 out of 10 cases. People actually would allow him to put that stupid poster in front of their house.
That's a great story.
Yeah, and he was really, really surprised about that. And at the end, he did, I think, about 100 houses he went, and he got rejected so often that he started to enjoy it.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's like you said, failure is a part of the process.
Yeah.
And as soon as you start to embrace it.
Yeah, and you have to learn from it and move on. Like Einstein failed 100 times or 100,000 times in inventing the light bulb. And then the last time he did it.
Yeah.
And we can do the same for our life. When we fail, don't stay down, but get up, learn from it, do better.
And I mean, comedy is harsh for that. Because you just have to keep, especially stand-up, which I haven't tried, but I will be within the next couple of months. You really just have to go up there and throw material out and see what works and see what doesn't. You're going to get a lot of rejection, and sometimes you're going to be up on a stage and you're just going to be able to hear crickets. Nobody's going to be laughing.
Good. And maybe you should check if the mic is turned off.
That's always a possibility.
You have to have fun in life, and I agree, and I think that will be great, and I'm looking forward to seeing you as a stand-up comedian. And that's actually a nice way to wrap it up for the first half of the show, because in the second half I really want to talk a little bit more about the details on how you do the intermittent fasting and what to do and not to do it safely, because that's a thing that many people try to do, or they do keto and try to fast and keto, or try to water fast. So that's an interesting topic.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, and this brings us to the end of the first half of today's broadcast here on 97.5 CIOE FM Community Radio. Please tune in after the commercial break for more about intermittent fasting and other things with Michael Stack. Hello and welcome back to Healthy Alternatives here on 97.5 CIOE FM or on the web at communityradio.ca. I'm your host, Dr. Christine Sauer, and today I'm talking with Michael Stack about intermittent fasting and comedy and more. Hi, Mike. Thanks for being back.
Thank you, Christine. I'm glad to be here.
Now, tell me a little bit more about how you do that intermittent fasting in practice, because you now have an experience of more than half a year doing it, and I know that you intend to keep the weight off for good. What's your plans? What is your experience? How do you in practice do it? And what can you tell somebody that wants to try it to do or not to do?
So now the big thing was, and I get this from a lot of my friends and family who don't quite understand, is they'll say something like, "Oh, you're going to stop the fasting when you get the weight off, right?" And I say, "Well, no." And that's kind of the key distinction, is that you're not just doing a short-term weight loss program to just get the weight off and then go back to normal. You're actually adopting a new lifestyle.
Right.
So fasting is going to become a part of your lifestyle going forward. To keep control of the weight. Now, one thing I like about intermittent fasting, and I will mix it up sometimes, is that there's so many different ways to do it. You can do one meal a day. You can do an 18-6, where you fast for 18 hours, and then or 16-8, sorry, fast for 16 hours and then eat in an 8-hour window. What I do is a protocol out of Dr. Jason Fung's book, The Obesity Code, and I actually do 24-hour fasts. And how that works is, so on a regular meal day, you'll eat a full breakfast, a lunch, and then you'll have supper. I usually have mine around 6 or 7, and then I will not eat again for 24 hours or until dinner the next day.
Now,
and I do that every second day.
Cool. I mean, many people that hear that will say, oh my God, a whole day not eating, you must feel awful when you do that.
And that's one of the most common comments.
Yes.
So for the first month, and I also got this out of the book as well, is on the fast day, within that 24-hour fast, at lunchtime, I would have a bowl of some kind of broth.
Yeah.
Be it a beef broth or a bone broth or a veggie broth, just something that really made a difference over the first month.
Yeah.
To get me through when I was trying to adjust to it, because, it was a little difficult, so that helped. And then after a month, I was actually able to drop the broth.
So what do you have all day?
Water, lots of water, and that's kind of a key. And, all the tea you can drink.
What kind of tea? Green tea is good, the ECG tea.
Green tea is just it's really healthy for you, but it also helps curb the appetite. So I really, really lean on green tea, I must say. Although, to be fair, I do like to mix it up with something that's a little flavored, like maybe a lemon ginger.
Sure.
Or something like that in the mix.
Now, my question, do you add anything to the water or the tea when you drink it? Like some salt or some minerals or anything?
Nothing like that, although I do take supplements in the morning.
Yeah. Because many people say...
you take vitamins and magnesium and that kind of thing in the morning.
Yeah, because many people say they need extra salt when they fast because they just crave it, and that's okay.
It is, and that's one of the things that the broth helped with. And especially, if you're really heavily hydrating and you're sweating, well, you can give yourself hyponatremia.
Exactly.
Where you're sweating out all that salt, but you're not replacing it. So and this is actually something I learned from you. If you need it, just take some salt.
Yeah, and you know it because you get a headache and you feel nauseous and you don't know why. Try salt.
Yeah. And that is one of the keys to this is listen to your body.
I like that.
If you get into a fast day and you're like, oh my God, I feel terrible. Why is that? Well, it's quite possible that the day before you probably didn't get enough calories in your body. And at that point, you just need to listen to your body and say, you know what, I'm going to break the fast. And I'll try it again in a couple of days. And
that's reasonable. And many people that are under a lot of stress really can't fast. Because it's just an additional stress on the body to change to the fasting mode. I think once you are used to your flexibility metabolically between fasting and eating, the body gets used to it and you can tolerate more stress than in the transition phase.
Absolutely. And I am finding more mental clarity. But now I think a big part of that is because as a part of this, I've cut sugar.
Yeah.
And I used to eat a lot of sugar, so I went through some serious withdrawal for 30 days. I was not prepared for it.
Yeah.
But it's sugar, and, weight is tied to insulin. And if you can control your insulin, and that's where the whole book, The Obesity Code, actually came from.
Yeah.
Was Dr. Fung working with diabetic patients and noticing that, hey, when I put people on insulin and their insulin spikes, they start gaining weight.
Well, of course, insulin is a growth hormone.
Yeah.
It makes everything grow, including tumors.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We need it, but we don't need it constantly in large doses.
Absolutely. And, there's so much sugar and all the processed food, and I used to dump it in my coffee, and I used to drink a lot of pop. So I really just cut all of that stuff out. And that's probably the biggest game changer. In the first couple of weeks, I think 10 pounds just flew off.
Yeah, now
it was surprisingly fast.
Now that is an effect also. The sugar, especially the artificial changed sugars like high fructose corn syrup, they cause actually inflammation in the body. Inflammation causes also you to hold on to weight and increases your insulin. And even artificial sweetener can increase your insulin.
Yeah, and that's something I've learned to take out of my coffee now.
Yeah.
Because technically, like, you can have a black coffee, but, Dr. Fong actually says himself, he says, if you need a little cream in your coffee, that's no problem.
No, the cream is not the problem.
It's under 50 calories.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's completely okay, and you have to be reasonable. As you said,
and I like to enjoy my morning coffee, so that's a concession I make.
Yeah, I love my morning coffee too, but I don't like milk in it, so I'm a black coffee lady.
Okay, so I've tried it and I just don't like it, and I've wanted to, believe me.
Yeah, my coffee is thin though. I always thin it down. In German we call that Blümchen coffee or flower coffee, because you could see the flower on the bottom of the cup. That's how thin it is.
Now, another thing I've done is cut out a lot of bread, breads. A lot of breads, because, there's a lot of sugar in it.
Yeah, so many people say, why not just do keto, which cuts out sugar and bread and carbs generally?
It does, and now what I find with this diet is it's a little bit of a hybrid, because the other thing about keto, with all that fat content, and I think about heart disease in my family, and cholesterol and that thing, and I just kind of I try to be a little careful there.
Yeah, and that's not really the main issue, but the main issue is our body needs to be flexible. We need to be able to switch from carb burning, sugar burning to fat burning, and the body needs to learn that. That's what we were designed at.
Absolutely. And I mean, that speaks to the crux of it, because if you look at our ancestors, they were not eating 6 small meals a day.
No, absolutely
they were
not.
They were hunting, and if they didn't get anything in their hunt, they got nothing to eat. So then they went to gathering.
Yeah.
And what did they gather? They gathered berries and things like that.
Whatever was in season.
Yeah, and they fasted until they ate again. And that's one of the things that was suggested in this book is, if you look at our great-great-great-grandparents and our ancestors, that for desserts, that's what they would have. Not a lot of this high sugary stuff. They'd have berries and cream.
Yeah, and that's actually a good place to wrap it up a little bit. I know I would love to have you share your Instagram profile so people can contact you.
Absolutely. You can find me on Instagram. It's at MJStackHFX. It's where I run a lot of my photography through, and you'll see more and more comedy on there in the days to come.
And I just want to note for those that might not know you that Stack is written S-T-A-C-K because you're not stuck.
It is. And I do, before we go, very quickly, do I have a minute?
Yeah.
I've been doing the BMST group with you, which is Body, Mind, Spirit Transformation, where we meet online once a week. And I have to tell you, that's been a really important support pillar for me.
Oh, that's so sweet of you to mention that.
Getting together with the group and comparing notes and exchanging ideas, it's very powerful. It's kind of, it's just powerful. I find it very helpful.
Yeah, and it's powerful to hear others and get the support and accountability that we need to the long term. And that program, I designed it to be long term. Because, hey, short-term weight loss is easy. Everybody can lose the weight, but you gain it back.
Absolutely. And, ask questions and answer questions. And so I just wanted to make that plug for you because it's been very, very important to me.
Oh, that's so sweet. Now, thank you so much, Mike, for being on the show. And
thank you, Christine.
Thank you, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again. And this brings me to the end of today's show. Please don't hesitate to contact me with any questions, thoughts, comments, or suggestions. Or if you'd like to contact Mike, my email here is christine@communityradio.ca, or you can contact me through my website, docchristine.com. That's DOCCHRISTINE.com. And I'm always grateful for any feedback. I also want to extend a special thank you to today's producers, Cole Carew and Cecil Wright. Thanks, you're the greatest. You might not know this, but this is a volunteer-run non-profit radio station. And we even have an art gallery. So if you're local and you'd like to drop in, be at 11 Glendale Avenue, Lower Sackville. Thank you all for listening to Healthy Alternatives. I'm your host, Dr. Christine Sauer. Tune in next Thursday at noon on 97.5 CROE-FM Community Radio with live stream on communityradio.ca for the next episode. Goodbye and have a great day.